Hello, teacher. We are going to present about special needs in Ecuador. So, first of all, I'm going to talk about the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So, they are patented by United Nations Organization. Also, it's very important to note that this is a goal for the whole world. Also, within the 2030 Agenda, there are several important areas where work is being done, which are prosperity, planet, people, peace, and partnership. Also, it depends on the country because it is totally different to talk about here in Ecuador and maybe in United States. Also, the most vulnerable countries or maybe African countries because some of them are in situation of conflict or post-conflict. It's important to know that they are 17 SDGs. Moreover, I'm going to talk about Ley Orgánica de Discapacidad here in Ecuador. In this law, there are 10 sections, but I'm going to emphasize in the section number 3 that is about de la educación, or is about education. First, in the section number 3, in education, there are 15 articles, but I choose the 4 more important. First, we have the article 27 that said about derecho a la educación, and here it is necessary to take into account that everyone has the right to education, to study. Besides, that is a human right. Also, within this article, people with disabilities can carry out their studies in a specialized education or in a school education. Also about Article 32, said about enseñanza de mecanismos, medios, formas e instrumentos de educación. And in Article 32, it mentions that the Ministry of Education will supervise that all educational institutions have different mechanisms, tools, pedagogies, instruments, and etc. For people with disabilities. Also, the Article 35 said educación coparticipativa, and Article 35 mentions that educational institutions must include all people. It means the family, principals, the community, students, and the whole people are in the society. Also, people with disabilities in educational and training process, because in this article we have to include people with disabilities in this kind of process. Also, Article 40 said about difusión en el ámbito de educación superior. In Article 40 tries to ensure that CENESID has knowledge of disability in the curricula of all careers and academic programs. It means that different universities have to put these kind of topics, and as a future professionals, we have to know about them and how to try or how to include that kind of people.
Good morning, teacher. Today I will explain some information about the statistical data of people who suffer any disability in Ecuador. But before starting, I want to share with you some information about Latin America. So as you can see in the picture, we have that Brazil is a country where people tend to suffer more special needs. And in the second place, we have Uruguay, but in the case of Ecuador, this is not really high. It means that it could be just represented by 3.5%. It could be. In the case of Latin America, the people tends to suffer more in a disability. That's why it is represented by 12.4%, while in Caribbean countries is represented by 5.4%. Let's move to the next picture, sorry, to the next slide. And we have some information about Ecuador. So, as you know, Ecuador is formed by approximately 15 million people around the whole country. But in the case of the people who suffer any disability, the number of people obviously is reduced, and this is 563,515 people, and these people are represented by the 3.5%. So the 3.5% is the percentage of the people who suffer any disability. I have used the paper called Caracterización del Servicio de Personas con Discapacidad. This paper is really useful and I like a lot because I could find some general information about Ecuador, some specific information. It was really useful for me. That's why I could find some information about men, women, and the different provinces. So let's check this information. So men tend to suffer any disability. They tend to suffer more than the women. So let's check the number. In Ecuador, we have 264,463 men, which are represented by the 52.2%. We have a big number, telling the truth. But in the case of women, we have a case quite different. In the case of women, we have the percentage, and it says for 45.8%, and the number of people is 2,714 women. So as you can see, men tend to suffer more any disability. It is kind of sad for the men, telling the truth. Now we have a short picture about the Ecuador. As you can see, the country is divided into 24 provinces, but we have a top 3 of the provinces which have more people with any disability. So in the first place, we have Bolivar with 5.5%. Then we have Chimborazo with 4.9%. And in the last place, there is Carchi with 4.2%. So let's move. Now I will explain some information about the disabilities, the type of disabilities, sorry. In order to develop this investigation, I have used the Consejo Nacional para la Igualdad de Discapacidades. This is a web page. The information that I could find was really useful for me, and I like it a lot because you can choose or pick out the city, the canton, the province, the type of disability, and the page will offer to you the information that you were asking. This is really interesting, and that's all about this page. So let's start explaining this graph. As you can see, we have different types of disabilities. We have physical disability, intellectual disability, auditory disability, and visual disability and psychosocial disability. I almost forgot about the psychosocial disability. So as you can see, and this is really evident, that physical disability is really represented by a high percentage in Ecuador. So let's check the numbers. As you know, in Ecuador, we have approximately 200, sorry, 220,750 people who suffer physical special needs. And this number is represented by 45.66%. The next one is intellectual disability. So regarding the intellectual disability, we have a 1,798 people, which are represented by by 23.12%. The next one is auditory disability. The auditory disability is represented by 64,791 people, and this number has approximately a percentage, and it is 14.12%. The next one is visual disability. The visual disability has 53,941 people, and the percentage is 11.54%. And in the last place, we have psychosocial. In the psychosocial, we have 77 number of people who suffer psychosocial disability. This number is represented by the 5.55%. So this is information about the types of disabilities. The next topic is level of instruction. As you know, the level of instruction refers to the level of education of any person. So as you can see, it is composed by non-primary, basic education, high school, and college. So we have a short example. We have a person who have already finished the major or the program. This person has the level of instruction in college or in Spanish superior. But regarding the information about people with disabilities, the situation tends to change a lot. But let's analyze this graph. So as you can see, in the case of none, we have specifically 23.66%. This percentage represents to the people who suffer any disability who don't go to the school, don't attend the school. The next case is primary. In the primary, we have a high percentage. The percentage is 39%. And this is the people who just taken the primary levels, and that's all. In the case of basic education, the situation decreased a lot, telling the truth, because it is represented by the 13%. In the case of high school, the percentage is 17.5%, and in the case of college, we just have 6.5%. 6.4%. The college percentage is a really small. We just have people with special needs who prefers to have the high school level of instruction, and this is the reality. I have seen in the university just maybe 3 people with any special needs who try to improve the level of instruction. Let's move to Tungurahua. I will provide some information about Tungurahua. So Tungurahua has approximately 590,600 people around the whole province. But in the case of people with special needs, this number is represented by the 2.82%, and the number of people who suffer any disability is 13,273. So let's check the types of disabilities. As you can see, the highest one is, in this case, 2, the physical disabilities. In this case, we have 36.14%. In the case of intellectual, we have 27%. In auditory, we just have 25.75%. In the case of visual, the percentage is not really high, and it says it is 10.33. And the last one is psychosocial. The psychosocial is not really high. So let's check, and the percentage is 4.51. Let's move to the next slide. So in the next slide, we can analyze, or we can see a table with some information about the physical, intellectual, auditory, visual, and psychosocial disability with the corresponding percentage. But now I will just provide some information about the highest ones. So in the case of physical, we have approximately 38.22%. It happens, or it occurs in Pelileo. In Pelileo, we have approximately 1,536 people. In the case of intellectual, we have that a canton where people tend to suffer more special needs is Píllaro. In Píllaro, the population is 1,080. And this number is represented by 30.90%. In the case of auditory, we have the highest case in Quero. So Quero has people with disabilities. The number is not really high, but let's provide a number. It is 647, and the percentage is 39.88%. Let's move to the next one, and this is the visual and psychosocial. Those kinds are in Ambato. So Ambato is composed approximately by 7,818 people who suffer any disability, but in the case of visual, this number is represented by the 11.93%, and in the case of psychosocial, we have a short percentage, and it is 5.32%. So that's all, teacher, and thank you for your attention.